So I watched that movie Argo. Now, the only reason I had a slight interest in this movie is because I'm a big Matthew Vaughn fan. Like he did X Men First Class, which I loved. He did the first Kick Ass movie, which I loved. He did the first Kingsman movie, which I loved. So I am a big fan as a filmmaker. Now his last two movies, I wasn't the biggest fan of. I think Kingsman 2 is awful. I think The Kingsman is okay. Like I had a decent time with it, but it's one of those really forgettable movies. So I do think he's been kind of on like a downward quality wise with his films lately. And this continues a trend for me. I really didn't like this movie. Let me start with the positives. I think Sam Rockwell is having a fun time in this movie. I liked his character. He doesn't really, I would say this, like, it's basically a spy version of like other characters he's played in other movies. So it's not like this is like a completely, like, I don't feel like this is a completely different character he hasn't done before. But I can tell he's having fun in the movie, and overall, I think his character was likable. I think Bryce Dallas Howard is good for the first half of the movie, and I'll get into why I think I have some issues where they take the character and her performance with one of the elements of the character. I think when she's playing the book writer, I think she's really good at that. I think her and Sam Rockwell have okay chemistry. When it gets to later on, we find out they're romantic. I don't buy them together. But I think at the beginning they had some decent banter and chemistry at the beginning of the movie. And like I said, I think she gives a good performance when she's playing the book writer. Some of the action scenes I thought were okay. There was other action scenes where I feel like it goes way too far wacky, and that's one of the issues I had with Kingsman 2, where Matthew Vaughn just seems to like. And even with The Kingsman, which I thought was okay, there was even times in there where I was like, you're getting too goofy and like you can't like seem to pick a one of the issues with The Kingsman to me is that I felt like it couldn't pick a tone. While Kingsman 2 felt like it got way too wacky. And I feel like with this movie, it does at some points get way too wacky. There was one action scene with like these visual colors, which I thought looked really cool. Like towards the in the third act of the movie. Now here's the negatives with this movie. Number one is that if you're looking to see a lot of Henry Cavill in this movie, all I'm going to say is that he is sped throughout this movie, but he doesn't really play. This movie really isn't about him. And that's one of the things that does kind of annoy me because they did promote him in the trailers a lot. He was on the posters a lot. And I feel like in the marketing, they did try to make it seem like he was like the main character. And he's really not. So if you're a Henry Cavill fan, you're going in expecting to see a lot of Henry Cavill. He's in this movie for a decent amount, but he's not really the main. He's not the main character of the movie, so he's not in it too much. So if you're a Henry Cavill fan, you're gonna be disappointed. Another negative thing with this movie is that this is where I'm gonna talk about. Now there's gonna be some spoilers in this review. If you haven't seen all, go stop the video now. But the whole plot of the movie is that Bryce Dallas Howard is playing a book writer. Like I said, she wrote a whole book series called Argo about this spiral, these characters. But you find out later on that a character's name is Elena. That she actually is Argo. The books were based on her actual life, where you find out she actually was a spy, and there was this evil organization that she talked about in the books that is real. So when you get to that part of the story, and that's what I mean by her and Sam Rockwell being a love interest to Sam Rockwell's character, because you find out that you can tell there was like something going on between them back when she was a spy. But when it gets to her being a spy, I don't buy her as this badass acting character. Like when she's trying to do the action scenes, I just don't buy it in this movie. And there's like a scene later on. This is one of those scenes that I feel like it gets way too wacky and silly. Because the movie starts off silly and just keeps going sillier and sillier. And in my opinion, the plot gets dumber and dumber. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Is that later on there's a scene where Sam Rockwell says, you're a good skater. And she has a memory, I guess, of being that she's really good at skating. So she breaks up these two knives, puts them below her shoes, And I remember her and Sam Rockwell were hiding behind something with Earl spoiled ground. You see the villain, the henchmen of the main villain, like walking slowly over to go get them, and you see her skate across all this black Earl that's spread on the floor, and basically cutting up these villains with a gun and knife on the gun, and she's just like skating and killing them like that, and the scene is just so silly and just really just wacky and too silly for me. I was like, okay, this is just stupid. I can see some people having fun with this movie. It's just this is an example. This felt more like Kingsman 2 and less like the first Kingsman, where it's just Matthew Vaughn seems to be like just not being able to like calm down on the wackiness in his movies lately. So like I didn't buy all that, and no offense to Bryce Dallas Howard, she's a beautiful woman, but I noticed in this movie, and one of the reasons why I couldn't buy her when they do that Swiss to her being like this badass character was that she doesn't look like she's in a shape where you look at somebody and say that person's a spy, a badass spy who can fight really well. Like she just like I felt like I bought her more as an Asin type, like with the Asin scenes in the two Jurassic World sequels, and I bought her in this because no offense to her, like I said, she looks great in this, but she doesn't look like she's in as good shape as she was in the Jurassic World films, and for me to one of the reasons why I wasn't able to buy her in the role when it comes to that element of the character when she switches to the spy version of a character is that I don't like. I feel like if your character's gonna like switch to like you find out later on in the movie that this character was a spy, I feel like the character should be, to be in a little bit better shape so I can buy. She's pulling off the ass in scenes because when she's doing the ice skating thing on the Earl, when she's doing the ass later on in the movie, I'm just like I'm not buying this. It's not, it's just not landing for me. Like I'm not buying her as this badass Aston character. So that was one of the things where I felt like I didn't buy that side of a character in the movie. Another thing about this movie is they just throw twist after twist. I've never seen a movie that had so many twists in a movie. And here's the problem with the twist, with all these twists in the movie, is that they keep throwing you one after every second to the point where you don't give you time to sit down, and the story just gets dumber too as it goes along with all these twists. Like I'm just like, really? And it's also the other thing. The twists are very predictable in this movie. I saw them all coming. That's another thing, is that the twists are predictable. There's like 5, 7 twists in this movie they keep throwing at you every second. You don't give enough time to sit down with any of the twists, and the story just gets dumber and wackier and stupider as the movie goes along. And like I said, look, I can see people having fun with this movie, but that was one of the issues I had with it. And the humor in this movie didn't land. I didn't care for the cat in this movie. The CGI, there's times where the CGI for the cat looks really bad and cartoony, and they made the cat kind of a big, not a gigantic portion of the plot, but the cat became a little bit more important in the plot than I thought it would be. I'm just like, ugh, like stuff like that. Like again, Matthew Vaughn, I feel like he's just going off like too much wackiness in his movies lately. I also don't like the look of the movie. Like this is one of those movies where I'm looking at it and it looks really fake to me. It looks like a lot of scenes look like CGI backgrounds. And what I mean by that is that it just has this glossy, fake looking feel in the backgrounds at certain shots in this movie. So the CGI to me at times doesn't look good, the green screen. And just overall, the tone of the movie didn't land for me at all. It starts off silly and it gets, like I said, sillier and dumber. I didn't really care much for the characters either. That was another thing. And there's a couple of cast members are just wasted in this movie. Samuel Jackson, I feel like he shows up later in the movie, like towards the middle, and his character I feel like is just there. Like there's nothing to his character. They gave him nothing to work with. I feel like they just threw him in the movie because he was in the first Kingsman movie, and Matthew Vaughn, liked to work with him maybe. But I feel like he's just wasted in this movie. And Bryan Cranston, because one of the twists you find later on is that he's the one that brainwashed Brian Dallas Howard's character, and you find out the woman that brainwashed her too, her and Brian Cranston's character were pretending to be her parents, so they gave her they brainwashed her, gave her new memories, and they even have there was a thing later on with the actress who was playing Bryce Dallas Howard's fake mother in this movie, where she does this whole thing where she has this ballerina boss and she's playing it and she's saying these words. I'm like, is this supposed to be it reminded me of Civil War with Winter Soldier. You guys just copied something else from it's okay. But Bryan Cranston, I feel is also wasted in this movie. And then that sucks that Bryan Cranston is a great actor. He could have played a great villain. You go back to Breaking Bad, when he played a character, yeah, it start out as a villain, but as the series went along, you see his character go towards becoming a bad guy. And in this movie, him as a villain, they give him nothing interesting or compelling to work with. He is one of the most generic, forgettable villains in this movie. You could have hired anybody to play this character. He's just a very uncompelling villain, a very boring villain, not interesting. There was nothing about his character in this movie that makes him compelling. He doesn't come off like a threat to me at all. So I feel he was wasted in this movie. And that's how I feel about a couple of actors. I feel a couple of actors were just kind of wasted in this movie, like John Cena, who I think has become a really good actor if you watch Peacemaker. And I think he's really good actually in the Suicide Squad where he was introduced as Peacemaker. But I feel he's in the beginning of this movie, and you see him for a quick shot at the end of the movie, and I feel he's just he's wasted too. I feel they didn't really give him anything to do in this movie. And then the movie ends in a way where I know Matthew Vaughn was saying he wanted to set this up. He wanted to set this up as a franchise and have this crossover with Kingsman. Obviously, this movie, I don't think it's going to happen because this movie cost 200 plus marketing, and this movie didn't do well at the box office. But at the end, you see her telling another story to the audience. You see all the characters, and then Henry Cavill pops up as one of the audience members and saying he wants to talk to her. So I can see where they were setting up a sequel. I guess the idea at the end, instead of trying to break the fourth wall and be meta, is that Argylle is actually Will, the character, or again, it was trying to be a meta thing at the end. And there is a post-credit scene where it's also trying to kind of going into more the breaking the fourth wall and meta part of the ending, which I was oh god. I was this is just stupid. It gets, and the whole and I want to say this is just a nitpick, but the whole buzz cut on the Henry Cavill that he's wearing when he's doing the scenes where he's playing Argylle, the spy that she imagined in a book series, looks so stupid on him. It doesn't look good. I mean, I don't know if that was a point to make it look bad, but it really just, I was Henry Cavill, dude, don't do the short buzz cut anymore. It doesn't look. I don't know if you would call it a buzz cut, but the short hair look didn't look good on him in this movie. And even the scene when you see him pop up as an audience member saying he needs to talk to her, and she's all shocked, oh, but you look. It ends with a shocked face, well, no, he looks like the Argylle character in my book series. He has he has long curly hair. I'm dude, I don't know who did Henry Cavill's hair in this movie, but it looks bad. With the end, he looks bad with the long curly hair in the final scene in the movie, and he also just looks bad with the short haircut as Argylle in this movie. So I don't know who did the. I was dude, you don't look good with those two haircuts in this movie. That's a nitpick. So, but yeah, it just this movie is such a gigantic disappointment in my opinion. And this is another. And also, I would say this: Matthew Vaughn, get out of spy movies. The last 4 movies have been spy movies. He's been on a Kingsman kick. And the last 3 movies before this were Kingsman movies. And like I said, I love the first Kingsman. But this is his 4th spy movie in a row. I'm just dude, you made one great spy movie with Kingsman, but your last 2, including this one, that have either sucked or been mediocre. I personally just want to see him do something else out of the spy genre. And also, I want him to get back to when you go back and watch the first Kick-Ass movie, the first Kingsman movie, and X-Men First Class, you had fun moments in those movies. But it felt natural. And even when I watched the first Kingsman, it felt to me like it felt grounded. You loved the characters. And it never felt like it became so wacky to the point where I was like feeling like I'm watching a over the top cartoon. That's how it felt like with Kingsman 2. And with the Kingsman, it felt like he couldn't pick a tone. And this feels more like Kingsman 2 again. So I think I would like to, I just personally would like to see him just stop directing spy movies now. Like, do something else. Get out of the spy genre and do a different type of genre right now, because it really feels like Matthew Vaughn as a director is kind of like gone. Like, I just haven't loved his. I didn't love his previous two movies. I didn't love this movie, and it's really felt like he's dipped as a director with these last three movies, quality wise. So overall, I didn't like Argylle. Like I said twice, I can see some people having fun with this movie. If you're looking for like a over the top, goofy spy movie, I can see some people enjoying it. But for me personally, as a Matthew Vaughn fan, I've seen him make better movies than this, and I feel like he's just he needs to get away from the spy movies, like I said. So that's my thoughts on Argylle. Until next time, movie fans.